good afternoon. It's not quite afternoon. Welcome to you all. Thank you for staying. I do genuinely appreciate how many of you have seen this as important and worthwhile of being here. So let's begin with prayer and then we'll think about how we're going forward. Let's pray. Come, Holy Spirit, gather us together in your presence, that we might hear your voice even in the business of the church. Remind us that we're called to be bearers of Christ's life, light and love to all we meet, and be inspired by the common purpose of sharing in the mission of God in our world. Amen. So there is an agenda. It's not a haphazard meeting this morning, where there is a plan. I want to introduce to you Ian Walker, who most of you, I hope, know, is one of our elders here at the Abbey. And then I want to introduce David McNabb, who's also going to be speaking. David is one of the architects from Oberlanders, who's the architect company that we have engaged to look at the future of this building and some of the repair work that we're currently needing to do. So they're going to be exploring with you the three things that I outlined in the letter to you, which is they're going to look at the maintenance work that we can't avoid any longer and the costs that involves. They're going to offer you a vision of the church for the future and the proposed costs for that, and then an outline of how some of that financing for the work will be achieved. That's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes at most. And then after that, there'll be an opportunity for questions. As I said at the beginning of the service, I'm aiming to finish at 12:30. If we finish before that, that would be fabulous. However, I don't want to stop you having questions. It's really important that we ask our questions. And so please, if you have a question, be prepared to do that. And then after we've had questions, I'll outline a little bit about what we plan to do in the next fortnight. Or at least the next fortnight. It may take a little bit longer. But with all of that, I'm actually going to now hand over to Ian and to David and let them make the presentation this morning.
Thank you all for staying on. As Mary Ann said, what we're going to do is really go through with you some of the ideas, some of the principles, share with you the vision, but also really get into details and show you some examples so you can really get a feel of the ideas that are being put forward. And we are going to have time for Q&A. So, let's get into it. As the chair of the Finance Committee, I'm not going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about the finances of the church, which you're probably quite delighted about. But it is common knowledge that we're working in a deficit. We are spending more money each year than we are bringing in. And with any organisation, when you work in negative cash flow, ultimately that oxygen of the organisation will run out. We are depleting our funds. That is a fact. No fault of anybody in the room. There's lots of reasons why that is. In our general life, there is a cost of living crisis. And churches all over Scotland, all over Britain, potentially and parts of Europe, are all suffering the same. This lovely building we're in, we had a condition survey and it shows major defects. Wet and dry rot arising from the roof and drainage issues, really as a result of poor ventilation. This beautiful stained glass windows around the building need repaired. The worst thing that can happen to a stained glass window is water ingress and leakage to them. It can cause damage. That has been looked at. The stonework around the building, you just need to walk around the outside to realise that the stonework needs a bit of attention. The safety systems within here, absolutely, our health and safety organisation are looking at saying that needs looked at, and the vestry roof. So when you look at all that together, that comes to a nice little bill of £2.9 million. External stonework of 1.3, the strained glass of 967, the roofing and rainwater of 239, the dry rot wet treatment 133, the roof safe access 91, another cost of 88, the vestry roof 79. That's what we've been told. Some of these we probably have to do immediately. Those of you who have ever dealt with dry and wet rot, and I know the Fabric Committee are in the room here as well, you can't really wait too long to address these issues. So that's where we are in terms of work needing done. So what can we do? What's the future? Well, this is going to be much more than just us saying to you, hey, can you give us more money? Because that's would patently be a silly thing to ask. We need to be creative. We need to try and change the way this building is looked at, the way this building is organised. And really, the number one principle is to secure the long-term future of the Abbey Church congregation. That is the number one priority. This will always be, first and foremost, a place of worship. But to do that, we need to change and think about how we use this building and how we can do more to raise more funds, to actually make it more central to how things are. Make it more flexible. Marianne teed me up very nicely with a sermon this morning, and thank you for that, to show we've been on this site for 950 years. For 950 years, this space, this building has evolved. I was actually looking back, I was trying to get the date when these pews were put in, but in the history of 950 years, it's not actually that long ago. When was the pulpit put in? Not that long ago in the spirit of 950 years. New lighting. And even this building was built relatively recently in the framework of 950 years. So evolution and change, as this place of worship, has been going on a long time. And to move forward, hopefully for the next 950 years, it will keep changing and will keep evolving. What you're going to see today, I'm very keen to stress this, is there's nothing decided. There's nothing cast in stone. What we're going to share with you is ideas and visions and possibilities, and really trying to bring them into your own minds to say, yes, I get this, or no, I don't get that. Really, let's have a discussion and debate with it, because there are a lot of stakeholders within this area. You as a congregation are number one. HES, Fife Council, the Heart of Dunfermline, the Heritage Partnership, the Church of Scotland, and the General Trustees, and I'm going to say, etc., etc., because it could be an ordinary person in the street of Dunfermline who wants to be part of this. This is going to be a project that's going to have to maximise what we call third-party funding to reach the ambition. It's not something we can do alone, nowhere near it. Professional fundraising is probably going to have to be part in it to access a lot of the money that is out there. HES do have funds. The National Lottery Heritage Fund have significant funds available. And philanthropy. As Dunfermline Abbey, yes, we can call on local donations, but we've got also a possibility with national and international. How many tourists do we see coming in here? We say, hey, I'm related to Robert the Bruce. We get a lot of them. And that link, especially into the US and Australia and New Zealand, is something we can tap into. There is a lot of money out there. The challenge is we need to be professional about it in terms of how we go about raising funds. Skills and competencies is basically a professional job now. A lot of these big charities you see, they are professional. It's a career for people about how they do fundraising. So that's the principles we've looked at. As I said, what you're going to see are ideas. So, David Oberlanders is going to be talking to you in a minute about some of the ideas. So when we just had this discussion with Oberlanders, we shared with them what is the possibility, what are the visions. Well, first of all, we wanted this space to be as flexible as possible, but we wanted it to be warm, and it is a bit chilly here today, and welcoming. That's the most important thing. Legacy for the future. As a congregation, we will be setting the tone and setting the future for the next generations that will come through this building. We need to understand where we are in terms of the environment. And not only is it the right thing to do, but also by taking an environmental approach to our development will unlock other funding sources. So whatever we do, the vision needs to be environmentally conscious and efficient. That means lighting, it means heating, and that will attract different levels of funding. The educational potential of this building needs to be maxed out. The history of here, people want to understand, people want to learn. And do we maximise school groups, universities coming in here, which will all want to know this? Now, I've said before, make this more flexible to support the mission as a contemporary church. We have 950 years of evolution. At the moment, historically, we've been a place of worship. Over the last few years, we've developed as a tourist attraction. Numbers have yet to be finalised, but last year, looking to somebody who give me the exact numbers, about 40,000 tourists came through Dunfermline Abbey. That's a big number. It's slightly down this year, which is a bit perplexing, but about 40,000, the footfall's about 40,000. And these are the two areas we've really worked on over the last few years. How's it going to change? Well, really the biggest change in the vision is to turn it into a community space. And if you look back at the history of the church was a community space. It means it's open through the week. It's a flexible space that other groups can use. It's a place for meetings. It's a place for the community to really feel part of things. And we've got an opportunity here because the heart of Dunfermline really is wanting the Abbey Church of Dunfermline to be that community space. And visitors who come across the threshold thinking, hey, this has surprised me. This is a place I want to come back to. This is a place I want to come into to potentially explore my faith. In terms of the size, I'm looking at Marianne here to get the right numbers. If we are completely packed out, every single seat, it's about 700? It's about 700. Regularly, on a Sunday, we're about 140, 150. Christingle, these sort of events at Christmas time, we can go up to 200 or 300. So we need to have these ideas in terms of the space for you to come in. So these were the sort of the high-level directions that we gave Oberlanders to work with to come up with ideas. But before I go, I want to give you a couple of examples of around the UK of what else has happened. The Cherished Churches, through the Lottery Heritage Fund, gave 7.4 million to restore the abbey and some churches in Wales, in the southwest of England. 7.4 million from the National Lottery. It's a lot of money. A bit closer to home, Cairnlea Parish Church in Airdrie. They changed from what was on the left-hand side here, which is, I think we all recognise as a very traditional Scottish church, into a brand new community-led place of worship. That cost 1.3 million. And Cairnlea is quite a small church. They really focused, and where they were very clever, is they opened up the environmental funding. So they put a new heat system in, which is really controlled by air source pumps. And how did they do that? Well, on their website, they talk about energetic and targeted fundraising, congregational giving, and grant awards, is what they said. And they've turned this space into a really phenomenal space. If you go and have a look at their website, you can see them having communion in the space. It's all very different to how the traditional look of the building was. So these are a couple of possibilities. So I'm now going to hand to David, who's going to talk you through the ideas that Oberlanders have come up with for the Abbey.
Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be here. Obviously, you can probably tell I'm not from Scotland, so I've been in Scotland for about 12 years now. Well, in Edinburgh about 12 years, but in Scotland about 18 years. But as soon as I walked through the doors of this building, I definitely noticed the kind of significance of it and how important this building is to the community. And with that, we have to bring an approach which is sensitive, and we're not coming in as big architects with big ideas trying to show off. It's a very considered approach. As Ian says, everything at the minute it's not set in stone. It's very, it's an exciting time because these are just ideas, and we need your input and your support as well to take these forward. So the building itself, like most churches, there's a kind of a language that we have to follow and respect. So it's a very symmetrical building. There's a hierarchy of, you start at the back, you're working your way forward. There's a language that we want to respect and not come in and obliterate. So we have to think about, how do we create a flexible space in this existing space? How do we upgrade the heating system and the services without distracting from the original features? And also, most importantly, is accessibility for all. So at the moment we've got this area which is accessible with the ramp outside, but the upper terrace isn't, or the upper gallery. So we want to make sure that this building for the future is accessible for everyone. Also, the tourism is a huge factor as well, so we want to make sure that this serves for the community, but it also maximises on revenue generation. And if there's 47,000 tourists coming here, they're not just walking through the door and leaving. They're dwelling, they're buying things in the shop, they're giving money that can be put back into the church. So early discussions we established, well, the ground floor should be quite similar to Airdrie. The pews could be taken out, and this could be one big flexible space, and that basically means that the ground floor is devoted to the congregation, the community groups, the local people for flexible events or working group sessions. And naturally the ground floors at the moment is pews, a couple of sort of makeshift rooms at the back, but there's a sink already on that area at the back. So we said, well, it might make sense to put all of any new services, toilets, sinks over in that back corner, and then we keep the middle bit as entirely flexible, and the 3 bays over in this side would be for working groups, for private events or private discussions or one-to-ones or whatever they need. So architects, we love to draw. It's great talking and writing words, but we always start with pen and paper, and it is a sketch that at the end of the day it's been worked out on a computer, but we want to just communicate that it's entirely flexible. This isn't a final drawing by any means. So I'm standing kind of here at the moment. The north area would be devoted to toilets, so new toilets, new storage for chairs, a little kitchen prep area, and minister room. And then these would be the areas just on the south, which would become these flexible areas. We can put foldable partitions or foldable screens in as well, which mean that they can be separated off or fully opened up. So it means that there could be an event happening in here, and then more private events happening within the bays. And accessibility is the key part of this project as well. Is we're very mindful. We don't want, we want to avoid, ramps are good, but they draw more attention to someone with mobility issues than someone that's able to just walk into a building or come into the building at ease. So we want to make sure if we're putting a lift in this building, it's located next to a stair so that you don't have one visitor using a stair over there and the person that needs a lift being separated. It's something that everyone should be able to go up the same access point. So we looked at locations for creating this single point access. At the moment there's existing stairs just in these two areas, but they're quite constrained. They're limited by the size and the shape, and trying to put a lift in that space would prove difficult. But it's also about wayfinding, and a person should just be able to walk in and see the point of where they go up to the gallery above. We wouldn't want people coming through the door and then asking questions, how do I get upstairs? So we saw that as an opportunity. Well, let's create something that's a bit more of a focal point, a bit more of something that celebrates the ornateness of this building. And we've got the organ, which has got a really beautiful ornamental sort of verticality to it. We've got beautiful decoration on the columns. It gave us that opportunity. Let's create something that takes people up and encourages people to go up. So that led us to this idea of creating a spiral stair with a lift in this first bay. And what that would mean is removing that bay that you can see just now, which kind of contradicts maybe slightly what I said earlier about trying to respect that order and the balance between the symmetry. But I think that it would be much more impressive and much more respectful putting something that's considered rather than shoehorning a lift at the back or a stair that doesn't really have that celebratory kind of journey up. So the idea would be this area would be totally congregation, and the gallery would be the shop. So the shop would move upstairs, and also to really give back to this kind of tourism and tell the story of the cathedral. There would be a tourist experience on the terrace above, where you could have placards or screens or whatever way, sculptures or whatever way that the church decides to tell the story. So there's a bit more of an experience that tourists come, they dwell in the shop, they pay for things in the shop, that money goes back into the church, and then they can they spend a bit more time here rather than coming in, looking around and leaving again. The gallery also gives amazing views to the Bruce window and the Margaret window. Those windows are really impressive, but once you're up at that level and being eye level with them, it really sort of sells you see the detail in it, it's much more impressive. So I'll just flick through some more images. So that would be the ground floor, so you can see that there's flexibility. The chairs will be similar to entry, they can move around, they can be stored away. The folding partitions can open and close, and the stair takes you up. Just flick forward here. And then you move upstairs, so that would be a new stair. And at the minute we said the shop could be here, and then a visitor sort of museum, touristy area could be here. It's so flexible. So, originally we had the shop here and the tourist information here, but whatever way we want to take it forward, it can change. The Tiffany window, which is currently just located in the box over here, that was something that we were part of as well originally, but it needs to be properly celebrated. Again, it's one of these, we don't want it to be tucked in the corner. It should be something that is almost like your purpose for coming here, and there's the golden nugget at the end of the journey. So we're thinking that people can come up, and the Tiffany window could be either located here or could be located here, so that you're encouraged to walk through all of the space, and then you finish the Tiffany window. So this is a 3D image. Again, it's not set in stone. We're very mindful that the graphics we produce are kind of diagrammatic, so that they're not giving the impression that we've developed the full scheme and we've not consulted anyone, so there's still very fluid ideas. So creating this really beautiful ornate stair that doesn't have to cost a fortune. It can be quite economically done, but it needs to be something that is, we want people to walk in and say, wow, that is, it's always been there. It's not something that's been bolted on or considered. And flip on. So more views. Again, this is us just walking through the door here in the north. Sorry, so this view is taken from just over here in the north. So again, tucking that stair back, it means that you've still got visibility to the windows, and it doesn't interrupt the space. And you can see there's new lighting that will be proposed. So there'll be new lighting, new flooring, new heating system. And if we sort of start with that, it's one of those, where do you stop spending money? Because if you upgrade the services, or you take the pews out, you upgrade the services, you've got to replace the floor, you put a new floor in, you've got to paint the walls, because you don't want old walls next to a brand new floor. And we're very mindful that there's a point where we just take the project to a point, and then that's it. We want to retain as much of the original as possible. So this is a view from that top corner, looking across, so you can see that the lift and the stair, we want to make sure that it doesn't feel like a big staircase that's just been dropped in. It needs to be something that's much more sensitive, and there'll be a new glass balustrade as well around the top, so it improves visibility down. At the moment, I don't know if everyone's been up in the gallery, but the floor steps down, so the pews will be removed up at that level, and it'll be flattened off so that we can create another flexible space up there. So that will be the Tiffany window, and there could be seating areas up there, or that could be part of the tourism route. Sorry. And these are some plans as well showing the seating arrangements. So that shows seating for around 285 people. So we've worked it out: toilet numbers, storage, kitchen, the stair. And yep, that's us. Pass back. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. So, in terms of, again, these are very much indicative costs. This would cost just over £3 million to pull it together. That's bringing it up to the ideas that have been put in. You can all do the arithmetic. About £3 million for repairs, about £3 million for the basically the remodelling. So we're looking at just over £6 million in terms of where we need to go to move this forward. And it's a big number. It's a big number. But as I said, the Heritage Lottery